So, Matt, for people that don't know, you came on board this movie franchise as the director of the second film, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. How did you get involved, and was this always envisioned as a trilogy from that point where you came on board?
No one told me. Um, Essentially, what happened was Rupert Wyatt, who'd done an amazing job with Rise, had worked with them. They basically was a 3-year schedule. They spent the first year trying to come to terms about what to make, and they couldn't agree. And so he left. And I was called, and I thought, well, this is a bad way to enter a movie. I don't know. He did such a beautiful job, and I was like, well, so what is the plan? Because I loved Rise so much, and they showed me the outline, and I said, oh, I see. Well, it's not. It wasn't his outline. It was something that they were trying to figure out what to do. And I said, oh, I don't think it's for me, but I do love this franchise, and good luck. And they said, no, wait, what would you do? And I said, well, I don't want to tell you that because you're going to give me some Faustian bargain. You're going to say, do 37% of what you want and the rest are what we want and the whole big showdown at Candlestick Park. And I was like, mm. So, but they said, no, just come in and pitch us the movie. And I was like, well, I would want to see a movie that, really followed. I thought the big secret of Rise was that the point of view at the end of the movie was actually an ape's. The most human character in that film was an ape. And I thought that was so powerful. And I was like, I think you want to take this, the story that they had didn't have Caesar as central. And I was like, I think it should start in the woods. I want it when he says Caesar is home. I want to see the home that he and the apes and make it like Dawn of, Intelligent Apes, like Dawn of Man in 2001 or something. And I pitched out what I thought it would be. And they literally said to me, that sounds great. Are you in? And I was like, whoa, you saying I can make that movie? And they said, yeah. I said, okay, what's the caveat? And they said, the caveat is these movies take like 3 years, but you're going to have 2. And I didn't know what that meant because I was stupid. I had no idea. I hadn't done, any. And so that's how I got into that. And then on this one, they liked the movie so much. On this one, at the end, they said, hey, listen, why don't you do another one? And I said, great, I would love to. And, we knew we wanted it to be this kind of last leg of the Caesar journey, but there was no story. And then we hadn't talked about it being a trilogy. And they said, listen, you did that one in 2 years. How about this one? And I was like, no. So this one took 3 years.
Joe, you've been involved in all three of the films. How has the technology changed in the amount of years from the first one to the third one? Have there been leaps and bounds?
Well, the technology change really happened. The big change was for the first film. We'd been lucky to work with Andy Serkis a lot in the past. We'd done Gollum and King Kong together. He played, Captain Haddock when we did Tintin. So we've been using this idea of performance capture to render Andy's performance to the screen for quite a long time. But it was always a process where Andy would be there for the actors, like say when he was doing Gollum, Peter would be shooting, Andy was in there, the actors were working with him. They benefited from that give and take. But Andy then had to go back and redo his performance for us in what was basically a gym with a bunch of cameras around. It was very much like a science experiment. And, we thought when it came time to do this, once we knew Andy was in as Caesar, he was going to do the part, I thought, we really owe it to him to get that performance that he's giving on the day. I don't want to say to Andy after all this time, can you do it again? So we really set to mind, how can we capture it live? And there's, you're dealing with cameras and lights, and they tend to interfere with the film cameras and lights. That's been the basic problem. But we figured out a way to crack that, and we would hang our cameras around the set, and it became part of the live action shooting. So on the first film, which was mostly, on stages, but also some exterior locations, we had Andy working with the actors, and the performance that he gave was the performance that made it to the film. So for us, that was the big breakthrough. After that, Matt decided to make it hard. So he decided that, okay, that's great that works, but it really allows us to take the story elsewhere, to take it to the ape village and then to take it on this great exodus. And, to me, I think about it in the way that, like, it must have been in the days when you were doing sound and you had a big blimp on the camera and you couldn't move it anywhere. Then some day you figured out how to make it lighter and move it a little bit farther. And that's kind of where I think we're going with it. Like if Matt says, I want to do the next one, wherever it might be, we want to be ready for that. Because that's really what this is all about. It's being there to help tell the story.
Yeah. Huge Steve Zahn fan. I've loved him from That Thing You Do in Suburbia to Happy Texas to all the other great stuff he's done. How did you know in meeting with him that he could do this very particular kind of acting job that you need to be able to do for this kind of
Okay,
a
so
film?
that's the perfect question. He wasn't doing a certain kind of acting job in the sense that I think people think. You have to understand that the performance capture is exactly that. It's a system of cameras that records a performance. You've got tracking markers, you've got cameras, and what are the actors doing? They're performing. And that's it. There's no like learning, like everyone talks about like, Andy Serkis, he's the greatest mocap actor in history, which is literally a meaningless designation because what he is one of the greatest actors on the planet. And he's so incredible. And you have to understand that the artistry that it takes in this movie to get that performance comes from a couple places. One is first with his performance. He's incredible. And then the other thing that happens is these incredible artists at Weta, they are translating that performance. And the reason it has to be translated is because you have Andy's face. And when you look at Andy's face, he makes you feel a certain way. And then you want Caesar to make you feel the same way, but it's a different anatomy. So that requires, that's not like, hey, some people think, oh, well, Andy just is the voice. No. Andy is the performance. And some people think, oh, well, Weta, they have all these technical things and they push a button. No. What they are is all these incredible animators who have to find out the way. What we do is we take the shots of the actors and we put them up side by side with every submission of the performance that's been animated. And we look at it and we go, oh, Andy looks really angry, but he's also sad. And it's that mix of emotions that makes you feel that. And Caesar right now, I can see the anger, but the sadness is not there yet. And then we get into this discussion with the animators. They go, oh, yeah, well, that's because Andy, on his brow, he's got this shape, but Caesar doesn't have that. And then I go, we need that, don't we? And he goes, well, we have to figure out how to get that shape to be there because we experience emotion based on the expressions we see on actors' faces. So this is the crazy alchemy that comes together, is translating shot by shot all of those things. So that was a long answer as a lead-in into why so the reason I cast Steve Zahn is because when he read for me over Skype, because he was in Puerto Rico doing a TV series and we were talking about the thing, we did the scene where he and Caesar are talking about their children and he made me cry. And I was like, this guy's amazing. And he told me that this performance, which, by the way, he said has now been like his favorite experience out of anything that he's done, because he said it was the most pure experience of acting. Mocap acting, I mean, everything that we do on the set is about creating an atmosphere. It's no different from doing an independent movie where you get the actors together and you can search. You go on an emotional search for the truth of the scene. It's everything after that that's insane. Then we have to get those shots again. Then we have to do all these other passes. And then, of course, we have to spend over a year afterwards working with Weta to make sure those performances are on these apes. But the actors, the first thing they do, all this thing about moving like an ape, an actor, if he plays someone who is in an accident and they have a limp, they have to learn that as the baseline. That's just his walk. That's not his heart. So Steve and Andy, they learn how to move and to express themselves in a way that reflects their character. They have to play chimps. And Terry Notary, who's a genius, has worked with all of the actors to get them to perform in this way. But that is not the half of it. That's just the beginning. Then they give these performances. And the reason I cast Steve Zahn is he's a great actor.
So, Joe, Matt was talking about the shortened time frame for Dawn, but also this one didn't have a ton of time either. Were there times where you felt, I just need a couple more weeks here, my team and I need some more time, or did you feel like you'd gotten to the point where you were able to do it under a tight deadline?
Look, every film is like that. You work to the available time. It's really just discussions with Matt and looking at the film and looking at every shot and saying this is what we need, this is what we have to go for. And if we had 6 more weeks, it wouldn't have been like they were 6 easy weeks. We would just keep doing the same thing because that's what it's all about. You're just trying to make the most out of the film in the time that you've got.
Am I correct that every spear in those battle scenes, every spear is
Not everyone, but most.
okay?
Yeah. There's some there are the practical spears that are there. So like when you have Spear riding the horse, that's what we called him. His character's name is Spear, but he's the guy who is riding that horse in a kind of Kurosawa-like moment when he's like rearing up and he's got that. That's actually a stunt guy riding with the spear. And Weta decided, hey, let's keep that spear because that's a real thing. You try to have as much. So the horse is real, and they actually paint out the rider and then put the ape in. And so there's a bit of something real, and then there's something totally created, and it's this whole magic of what they do.
Congratulations, Matt Reeves and Joe Letteri.